The light had gone soft and violet over the paper-screen courtyard. Pale wood held the last warmth of the day, and the reflecting pool lay still enough to keep a second sky inside it, dim and quiet. Nori sat on the boards beside that water, knees tucked close, a square of rice paper resting across both palms. The paper felt thin and dry, almost like a held breath. Nearby, on the moss border, Kettle rested with legs drawn in. The tortoise's shell was faintly warm, as if it had stored a little of the afternoon and meant to share it slowly with the green. A small dish of glue sat within easy reach. Its scent rose in the cooling air, mild and clean, mixing with the faint smell of damp moss and old wood. Along the screens, hanging frames caught low glows from earlier work, little pockets of gold that did not hurry or fade. Nori smoothed the rice paper once, then began. A long fold. A shorter one. Corners met with patient care. Fingers pressed each crease until it held, and a thin brush of glue sealed the edges without rush. The shape grew hollow and gentle, a small house meant for light. When the last fold came to rest, there was the soft rustle of rice paper settling still. For a moment the new lantern simply sat in Nori's hands, quiet as the pool. Then it lifted a little on its own, as if a soft breath had found it from underneath. It rose no higher than a cupped palm and began to drift toward the open gates, carrying its warm low glow past the pale wood and out toward the quiet windows along the lane. Nori watched without speaking. Kettle's head turned a slow fraction to follow the light until the glow slipped beyond the first screen and became only a softer brightness among the evening shapes. Another square of paper waited. Nori took it up the same way, palms steady, folds even. Glue scent lifted again. The hanging frames held their small golds. Outside the courtyard the lane lay open and unhurried, gates ajar, windows half-dark, ordinary tasks left unfinished in the violet hour, thread still loose on a sleeve, a basket not yet set by a door, a note not yet weighted against the wind. The second lantern finished with the same soft rustle. It lifted, drifted, and chose its own slow path past the screens. Nori and Kettle watched it go, wondering softly where the light would choose to settle, and what quiet thing might still be waiting for a little warmth to arrive. Fold by fold the batch took shape. Each lantern received the same care, the crease that made a roof, the seal that made a wall, the moment of stillness before the lift. Some drifted left toward the older houses. Some leaned right where the garden path curved away. None of them hurried. None of them asked to be followed. They simply went, small and sure, as if they already knew the gaps that needed filling. Kettle shifted once on the moss, shell still faintly warm, eyes half-lidded yet attentive. The tortoise noticed how the courtyard light grew gentler with every departure, how the reflecting pool took on deeper violet and held fewer bright points. Nori's hands kept their steady rhythm. Paper became lantern. Lantern became glow. Glow became a question moving out into the lane. Where did they go when the screens no longer showed them? Which quiet tasks still waited in rooms and porches and under eaves, begun and then set down when the day grew long? The questions floated as lightly as the lanterns themselves. There was no need to answer them yet. There was only the folding, the watching, and the soft wonder shared between a careful pair of hands and a slow garden tortoise. One sheet remained. Nori folded it with the same unhurried patience, brushing glue along the final seam, waiting for the paper to hold. The soft rustle came again as everything settled still. Then the last of the batch lifted, no taller than a breath, and drifted past the screens toward the open darkening lane. Nori rested both palms on the cool wood. Kettle blinked once at the darkening pool, where the violet sky had grown quieter still, and the courtyard held only the low glows left in the hanging frames. Nori rose from the pale wood and brushed a pale fleck of rice dust from one palm. Kettle shifted on the moss, shell still faintly warm, and turned toward the open gate where the last lantern had gone. Together they crossed the courtyard at the unhurried pace the evening asked for, and the soft gravel of the lane received their steps without complaint. Low lights drifted ahead of them, each no brighter than a held breath. One settled beside a porch where a half-mended basket waited on a low stool, its willow strips left open like a thought not yet finished. The lantern hovered there a moment, casting a quiet gold across the unfinished weave, then rested as if it meant to keep the basket company until morning hands returned. Farther on, another light found a window sill where a folded note lay unread beneath a small smooth stone. The paper of the note had begun to curl at one corner. The lantern lowered itself beside the stone and glowed steady and mild, so the words inside might wait without growing lonely in the dark. A third lantern drifted to a door whose latch had been left soft, not quite closed, as if someone had meant to come back and then forgotten the final press of the hand. The light nestled near the frame and warmed the wood just enough that the gap no longer felt unfinished. Nori and Kettle walked the length of the lane without speaking. The gravel whispered under tortoise feet and careful sandals. Warm low glows marked the quiet tasks the lanterns had chosen, and the violet hour held them all in the same gentle hush. When the path curved back toward home, they turned without hurry, carrying the memory of basket, note, and latch like small soft weights in the mind. The courtyard received them again. The reflecting pool lay stiller than before, and the hanging frames kept their low glows. Most of the evening's lanterns had gone. Yet one remained near the center of the pale wood, no taller than a resting cup, refusing the open dark beyond the screens. It did not drift. It simply waited, and from within its folded walls a deeper light began to gather, warm and even, as if a tiny sun had chosen that small paper house for the night. Nori knelt. Kettle drew close enough that the moss cooled a little under his shell and the warmth of the lantern reached them both. Nori's patient hands touched the uppermost seam. The paper yielded without tearing. The walls opened the way a flower opens when no wind is watching, and inside lay a delicate folded map, thinner than ordinary paper, marked with tiny familiar paths that curved through gardens and under eaves and along the same gravel they had just walked. The soft rustle of rice paper settling still marked the change from watching to reading. The map lay open across Nori's palms, its lines fine as hair and pale as first light. Kettle stretched his neck the smallest distance and regarded the paths with the slow attention he gave to gaps in the moss. They saw the porch where the basket waited, drawn in a careful oval. They saw the sill with its note, marked by a quiet square. They saw the door latch, shown only as a soft bend in a line. Other paths continued outward, some already known, some still waiting to be walked. One small path ran along the very edge of the paper, its ending not yet clear, its purpose not yet named. Nori smoothed a corner that had lifted. Kettle blinked once, unhurried. The hanging frames glowed on. The pool held the last of the violet sky. Between them the open map rested, warm from the lantern's inner light, and the courtyard seemed to lean a little closer, as if it too wished to read. They sat with the open map between them, one small path still unread at its edge. Nori folded the map with care so that the clearest line remained along the top edge, easy to follow by touch. The paper felt warm still from the lantern's inner light. Kettle shifted his weight and turned toward the open gates, the moss cool beneath his feet. Together they rose and stepped onto the soft gravel that led away from the reflecting pool. The path they chose bent left almost at once, slipping between pale wood screens into a narrower way lined with moss. Damp green scent rose as they walked. Low lantern light from the courtyard faded behind them, and a quieter glow waited ahead, steady and patient on a porch rail. Gravel gave way to packed earth that felt springy under Nori's slippers. Kettle moved at his own pace, shell catching the last violet of the sky. They came to the porch after only a short walk. The half-mended basket sat exactly where the map had drawn it, an oval of woven willow with one side still open and frayed. A finished lantern rested beside it, casting a round pool of warm light across the boards. Scraps of older rice paper lay nearby, some curled at the corners, some already cut into thin strips. A coil of soft cord rested in the shadow of the rail, its end loose and waiting. Nori knelt on the smooth porch wood and set the map within easy reach. The air smelled faintly of dry willow and evening dust. Kettle settled close to the coil so that the curve of his shell held it from rolling. Nori ran careful fingers along the open edge of the basket, feeling where the weave had loosened and where new paper would need to tuck and hold. The settled lantern hummed with a low, even warmth that made the work easy to see. From a hanging rack just beyond the porch post, Nori gathered what the mending asked for. Right-sized scraps waited there in a shallow tray, pale and flexible, each one thin enough to bend without creasing hard. A spare frame of light wood hung among others. Nori lifted it free and carried it back, the wood smooth and dry against the palms. Kettle watched without stirring, only shifting once so the coil of cord stayed snug against his shell. Nori cut a narrow strip with small scissors kept in a pocket fold. The blades whispered through the paper. Piece by piece the new lining settled into the open side of the basket. Where the old weave gaped, Nori slid a scrap underneath and pressed it flat with patient thumbs. Glue from a tiny pot along the rail held each layer. The scent rose mild and familiar, the same as in the courtyard. Kettle's shell kept the cord from sliding while Nori measured lengths against the basket's curve and snipped them clean. Soft cord wove in and out of the willow, drawing the sides together again. Nori worked slowly, pausing often to smooth a wrinkle or to check that the spare frame sat true inside the rim. The lantern light stayed steady, painting gold along the edges of the paper and along Kettle's shell. Somewhere in the lane a screen door eased shut with a gentle click. The porch boards held the day's leftover warmth and gave it back through Nori's knees and Kettle's feet. When the last length of cord was tied in a quiet knot, Nori ran one hand around the whole basket. The weave felt even now, firm enough to carry and soft enough not to scratch. The new paper lining lay smooth inside. Nori tucked one final scrap along the rim where a tiny gap remained, and the soft rustle of rice paper settling still rose for a moment and then was gone. The spare frame rested snug within, ready if anyone needed to hang the basket later or carry it farther down the lane. They left the finished basket on the porch exactly as they had found it, only whole now, and they left the settled lantern glowing beside it so the warm circle of light would stay. Nori wiped the glue pot closed and returned the scissors to the pocket fold. Kettle eased away from the empty place where the cord had been. The map waited, still warm when Nori lifted it. One clear line had been walked, other lines waited farther out. They turned homeward along the mossy side path. Gravel began again under slow feet, whispering in small grains that shifted and then lay quiet. The violet hour had deepened into a blue dusk, yet the hanging frames of the courtyard soon showed ahead, low and golden. Nori carried the map loosely so the unread edge would not crease. Kettle kept close, shell faintly warm from the work and the walk. At the courtyard edge they paused by the pool. The water held the shapes of the frames and a thin reflection of the open sky. Between them the map rested once more, its paths familiar now in part. Another path still waited unmarked by their steps, a thin line running outward past the known porch and the known sill, its ending not yet clear. Nori smoothed the corner again. Kettle regarded the water with the same slow attention he gave to gaps in the moss. The pool stayed still. The hanging frames glowed on. They stood a little longer in the quiet before going in. They stepped inside only long enough for Nori to set the map on the low table and smooth its open face. The next thin line led outward again, past the known porch and the known sill, toward a place the ink marked with a small square shelf. Kettle turned with the same unhurried care he gave every departure. Together they crossed the pale wood and returned to the soft gravel. The path curved between quiet windows where pale curtains hung still. Warm low glows rested on sills and along the bases of hanging frames. Their steps made almost no sound. The air smelled faintly of cooled tea and dry leaves. Nori kept the map loose in both hands so the unread edge would not crease. Kettle stayed near the moss that edged the lane, shell faintly warm. After a gentle stretch of walking, the lane opened onto a low wooden shelf set against a paper screen wall. Soft brushes lay in a shallow tray, their handles smooth and their bristles pale. Spare frames rested beside them, light enough to lift with 2 careful fingers. A settled lantern glowed above the shelf, its light low and golden on the pale wood. Nori gathered 2 brushes and 1 spare frame, wrapping them in a soft cloth scrap so nothing would catch or bend. Kettle steadied the cloth edge with the gentle press of his shell. Beneath the shelf a fresh batch of rice paper waited on a drying board. The sheets looked ready. Nori lifted the top one with patient hands, expecting the familiar yield. Instead the paper answered with a dry crackle, stiff along every crease line. Where there should have been the soft rustle of rice paper settling still, there came only that thin, unwilling sound. The sheet would not fold. It held its shape too firmly, as if the evening air had drawn the last softness from it before the work could begin. Nori turned the sheet once, then twice, feeling the edges. Kettle watched the gap between board and wall where a corner of paper had lifted. They would need this paper for the remaining favors the map still held. Without its gentle give the folds would tear rather than rest. Nori rolled the stiff sheet with slow care and tucked it under one arm beside the wrapped brushes and frame. The settled lantern stayed where it was, glowing on the empty board. They turned homeward along the same quiet windows. Gravel whispered under slow feet. The violet hour had thinned further, the sky a deeper blue above the hanging frames. When the courtyard showed ahead again, the reflecting pool held a deeper violet, the shapes of the frames resting dark and still on its surface. Nori set the stiff paper on the pale wood beside the water and brought cool cloths from the low cabinet. Kettle settled on the moss border, shell warming the green in a small steady circle. Nori spread the first cloth flat and laid the paper upon it. A second cloth, dampened in the cool edge of the pool, covered the sheet from corner to corner. The cloths pressed gently. Water seeped in slow rings, softening what the dry air had taken. Nori smoothed the top cloth with open palms, pausing whenever a wrinkle tried to form. Kettle's warmth rose faintly from the moss. The hanging frames glowed on, lower now. The map lay open nearby, its second path marked by the brushes and frames they had gathered. One thin line still waited, its ending not yet walked. The light kept thinning across the courtyard. Cloths cooled the paper flat. The pool held the last of the violet without a ripple. Nori rested both hands on the damp cloth and breathed with the quiet work while Kettle watched the edges for any place that still needed care. Nori kept both palms on the damp cloth a little longer. The paper underneath had begun to yield. Cool rings of water had found every stiff corner and turned them quiet again. When Nori lifted the top cloth, the sheet felt patient once more, ready to listen to folds. Kettle shifted on the moss, shell still warm. The staying lantern glowed low beside the open map. Nori drew the map closer and tilted it toward that soft light. Tiny notes marked the edges of each thin path. The letters were small and careful, the kind that take their time. Nori traced one line with a fingertip. The hand that had written those notes felt familiar. The same gentle loops that once taught Nori how to crease rice paper without tearing it. Grandmother's hand. The paths were hers. The ordinary tasks were hers, begun long ago and left half-finished when evening work ran out of light. Understanding arrived the way the violet left the pool, slowly, without hurry. The lanterns that drifted from the courtyard had not chosen their resting places by chance. They had gone to close the small kindnesses grandmother started years before. A half-mended basket. An unread note waiting on a sill. A door latch left soft. Soft brushes and spare frames set aside for later. Each light had settled where a circle of help still waited to be completed. Nori looked at Kettle. The tortoise blinked once, slow and sure, as if he had known the map's quiet secret all along. The hanging frames held their low glows. The remade paper lay flat and ready. Nori gathered the soft brushes and the spare frames they had carried home. The patient new sheet came last, light in careful hands. They left the courtyard together. Gravel whispered underfoot. Kettle kept an easy pace, shell warming the air a little as they walked the last short paths. The first stop was a narrow sill where a brush had dried mid-stroke years before. Nori set a soft brush beside it and slipped a spare frame into the waiting rack. The settled lantern there brightened once, then held steady. The second path led past a quiet window to a low table that still needed a folded paper liner. Nori worked by the staying lantern's glow, creasing the remade sheet with patient hands. The soft rustle of rice paper settling still rose and faded as each fold found its place. Kettle steadied the edge with the gentle press of his shell. When the liner lay smooth, they left the lantern glowing and turned toward the final thin line on the map. That line ended at a small open porch where a coil of cord waited to be tied into a simple hanging loop. Nori shaped the last of the paper into one more lantern while Kettle held the cord steady. Soft brushes smoothed the seams. A spare frame gave the light its quiet shape. The pool back home would be darker now, the violet almost gone, yet here the work felt complete. They walked homeward under a sky that had deepened to soft blue-black. The map rested light in Nori's sleeve. Every path had been walked. Every ordinary task grandmother began had been finished by the same patient hands, guided by lights that remembered. The courtyard received them with the faint scent of damp cloth and cool moss. The reflecting pool held only darkness and a few pale stars. Nori sat once more on the pale wood. The final lantern rested ready in open palms, its walls smooth, its glow waiting. Only its settling place was still open, a last quiet question floating between the hanging frames and the still water. Kettle warmed the moss nearby. The night breathed soft and even around them. Nori's fingers eased open a little farther. The final lantern lifted from open palms as lightly as a held breath released. It drifted only a short way, past the nearest hanging frames, toward the quiet edge where the pail would met the first soft gravel. There, on a low sill that faced the lane, a small clay cup rested empty and dry. Water had once been left in it each evening for moths and for any passerby who might need cool hands. The cup waited still, its rim pale in the dark. The lantern settled just above it. Warm light touched the clay and made a gentle circle. Nori rose and followed at an easy pace. Kettle left the moss border and crossed the boards with the slow scrape of shell, unhurried and sure. Nori lifted the quiet jar kept under the eaves and poured clear water until the cup was full. A few pale stars found themselves again on the surface. The ordinary task closed without sound. Grandmother's habit had been answered by the same patient hands, under a light that had chosen its place. They lingered only a moment. The air smelled of night leaves and faint damp paper. Then they turned back into the heart of the courtyard. The staying lantern waited where they had left it on the pale wood. Nori drew the map from a sleeve. Every tiny path looked finished now, every note already walked. With careful fingers, Nori opened the lantern's walls and slid the folded map inside once more. The paper lay flat against the inner glow. Its lines grew faint, then softer still, until ink became only plain pale paper again. There came the soft rustle of rice paper settling still. Nothing written remained. Only clean walls and one steady light. Nori closed the lantern gently. It shone a single warm glow on the pale wood, low and even. The hanging frames stood empty of hurry. No more scraps waited on the racks. No more paths called from anywhere. The reflecting pool held only darkness and a scatter of pale stars. Its surface did not move. Cool moss scented the air, mixed with the faint sweetness of glue long dried. The paper screens breathed with the night and kept the quiet in. Nori sat once more on the pale wood beside the single glow. Kettle drew close to the moss border and warmed it with the slow heat of his shell. The air cooled degree by slow degree. Night pressed softly against every screen and frame. All the small kindnesses rested complete. The basket stood mended on its porch. The stiff paper had yielded and been used. Soft brushes and spare frames had found their places. The clay cup held water under its own quiet light. The circle grandmother began had closed under lights that remembered and under hands that continued without rush. Nori's shoulders eased downward. Kettle's eyes half closed. The warm glow did not flicker or lean. It simply stayed, one companion on the wood, enough for the whole courtyard. Somewhere beyond the gates, the earlier lanterns kept their own soft watches beside finished tasks. Here only this one light remained, and the stars held still in the pool, and the even breath of the night moving through the hanging frames. Nori rested a palm on the smooth boards. The wood kept a little of the day's warmth. Kettle's shell was warmer still. The moss beneath him felt cool and kind against the air. Nothing stirred the frames. Nothing asked to be folded or carried or mended. The last open question had found its answer in the settled cup, and the map returned to plain paper. The courtyard held only rest. Breath slowed with the still pool. Nothing more needed folding tonight. Sleep comes as quietly as the last lantern's glow on pale wood, and the story rests with you.